for us, to be honest, states have been the best of allies on political scale, on the value-based scale, in diplomacy, in military, in security partner for us. So I would predict that it will continue. United States will be a partner to Europe, and even if it makes us work a little bit harder, that's not a bad thing, to be honest, because last time Trump was around, he told Europe to get a grip and to invest more in defense, so we did. We're looking from Estonian side, we are in top 3 in the NATO expenditure in military affairs. Poland is the first, we are the second, and the United States in GDP is the third one. So I would say that my expectations are that everybody will invest more in their own defense and Europe will step up. So I would say this is not, I don't have any bad expectations with that. But
one of the things that Donald Trump has said on repeated occasions was that he will end the war in Ukraine within 24 hours if we're of being elected, not even being in office. That 24 hours has now begun. What do you think he means by that? And if he speaks to, say, Vladimir Putin, comes with some sort of deal, what is the response? What is the appropriate response from the Europeans?
The European position has always been that nothing of Ukraine without Ukraine, and for us, and nothing of Europe without Europe. That is the first thing you have to mention always, that you cannot make deals with the ones who are concerned with it. That's the first thing. Second thing is that if this 24-hour or the idea means that helping Ukraine to win, to put Ukraine in this position, let's say using Ukraine's President Zelensky victory plan, that Russia is forced to negotiate from that position, then probably Europe would say that this is an acceptable plan and you can agree with that plan. But for us, the most important key elements, let's say in the future, probably would be that you wouldn't have anybody in the Europe change the territory and borders with violence. Second one, reparations should be paid by Russia's taxpayer, not European or the states and so on. And also somebody from Russia should be responsible under the tribunal with that.
And but if Trump does come with a proposal and Europe, and as you say, the line is no, does Europe have the resources, does it have the political will to support Ukraine by itself if the United States were to withdraw its support?
I would say that Europe is capable of supporting Ukraine and is willing to support Ukraine, but I would say that I couldn't see any scenario, I wouldn't predict any scenario that in which the United States would not be advocating for free and rule-based world, to be honest.
And you as a frontline NATO nation, as a frontline European nation, do you feel less secure today than you did yesterday?
No, because to be honest, the problem is Putin, not American elections. For us, the problem is Putin. And we have known for a long time what Russia represents. For what is to, let's say, to us is a politeness, for Europe is politeness, for them is a weakness. So they're using everything, and if they have gained something, they will ask for more. So let's make no mistake about it. We know our enemy. Russia is a big threat to NATO, to the civilized and rule-based world.
And one of the sort of greatest impacts also that it's been sort of forecast that Trump would have on Europe is this threat of adding tariffs onto goods, 10 to 20%. I spoke to a German official this morning who said that the way that Europe should respond is immediately retaliatory and play hardball. How do you think Europe should respond to Trump if there are tariffs imposed on Europe?
That's a big if, because I would say people say during campaign different things. You usually win campaigns by, let's say, electoral campaigns by playing a little bit harder than usually. We will see that usually economic issues are negotiable, and I would say if you look back, and I would predict that Trump is even more pro-economy and economic free trade. So we will see about the tariffs and what are his means.
And I think that one perhaps where he's perhaps a bit more credible in terms of the sort of following through on the threat are the tariffs on China. This would also have an impact on Europe meaning potentially a lot more of that overcapacity in China will come directly to Europe. Does Europe need to prepare for those overcapacity from China coming in? Does it need to look at other tariffs on Chinese goods?
Europe has certain tariffs. Well, last one on the car makers, on let's say on the subsidized cars and so on, which were against WTO rules. But probably if you look at the economy in Europe, which is a little bit cooling down, everybody has problems with inflation and so on. So I would predict that everybody is quite cautious about different tariffs wars also in Europe. That is not in the interest of consumers. And if I look at the world, probably the United States and Europe are much more closer allies on the value-based world and rule-based world than any other part of the world. So I would say that that probably a little bit lowers the possibility of having very deepening, let's say, economic wars.
And you alluded to this earlier, but I want to come back to the point that you made about Trump potentially forcing Europe into something sort of more coherent, more unified action. Do you think that that is the most likely outcome here? Do you think that this is a wake-up call moment for Europe?
Absolutely. I would say that usually maybe the comparison is not the best one, but usually when a person gets a little bit older and gains a little bit in kilograms, wake-up call comes suddenly, and after that you will work out and get fit and so on. But Europe is the same. You get fitter, and it's not a bad thing for Europe.
So do you think that this outcome of the election is the best is the most supportive to Mario Draghi's agenda in getting the competitiveness through in Europe?
Yeah, my expectations to Europe are very high with that because, to be honest, you have one of the most competitive areas with potential, but you have so many sets of rules, so many questionnaires, so many papers and forms to fill. Yeah. So yes, if it pushes Europe to be more competitive, have less rules, let's say more automated, more data-driven economy, more simpler, and one market, that's it meant to be. So yes, that's a good thing.
And I think a lot of people talk about the Draghi report, and it's all very sort of philosophical and competitive. Concretely, what do you hope to get from this summit? Where would you like to see progress made concretely on making Europe more competitive?
To be honest, probably the main issue, if I look at Europe, is the different set of rules. If you look at the smaller and medium economy or medium enterprises, if we would have some kind of push on that, that we would have some kind of unified system for them on the rules, on the taxation, or I know taxation is everybody's decision, and let's say on the bureaucracy side, that probably would be very helpful, because if you look at Estonia, we have done different experiments. We are quite a data-driven country and done different experiments, and if you simplify different bookkeeping systems and so on, everybody has the light in their eyes to have this enterprise running. So it's much easier to have enterprises running, and Europe has too many rules, too many bureaucrats.
And President Zelensky will also be here. You'll be speaking to him. What is your message to President Zelensky, who might be a little bit concerned by the outcome of the U.S. election? What does the message need to be to him from the Europeans?
I would say from Estonia, we have committed to helping Ukraine, 0.25% of our GDP military, and our aid will continue, and we will do even more if we have the possibility of energy or heating systems that they need in this winter, which will be harsh because Russia has very systematically bombed different systems supplying energy and heat, so on. And the second one probably would be that Zelensky's victory plan for us is a credible plan. We support it. We support the Ukraine in EU and NATO. And we do everything that Ukraine is in the position to force Russia to negotiate, not the other way around.
Do you think that the election of Trump will be, do you think it'll get, for example, the Germans perhaps more on board with some of the making more permissive action of what Ukraine can use in terms of its weapons striking within Russia? Is there a conversation that you will have with Olaf Scholz in trying to push that forward?
I hope so. I hope so. And I would say that everybody in Europe is thinking tonight or next weeks, what can we do? Because if you look at the numbers and absolute numbers, Europe has contributed to Ukraine even more than the United States in money. But in arms-wise, the States is the biggest contributor. And the question probably would be that how does it roll on in the future? Because I would say, not to be too gloomy, but I would say that European value-based and rule-based system somewhat will be also decided with conflict and the war, aggression war, ending in Ukraine. That probably also will be a mark that will be left on the Europe. How will it end? What will be the Europe's decision? What will we do? Because let's say if you allow Russia to change borders by force, and they're saying, yeah, we will give half of your country to your back, so it's not acceptable, I would say, to Europe. It probably will be a stigmata for a long time.